Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredible historical narrative that forms the absolute bedrock of the Hajj rituals and the global festival of Eid al-Adha. Instead of just looking at these modern practices in a vacuum, we're going to trace them right back to their roots. We are mapping out a story of pure survival, immense faith, and an endurance that has been passed down through generations.
So think about this for a second. How did an uncultivated, completely barren valley become the vibrant center of faith for millions of people all over the world? Well, that is the core mystery we're unraveling today. It's just a phenomenal transformation story. We're going to see exactly how a place literally devoid of life and resources became the spiritual anchor for the Islamic world, setting a stage that echoes directly into our lives today.
Chapter 1: The Barren Valley. Let's start with a formidable trial faced by a mother and her infant son.
The sheer desperation of this setting is just striking. According to the source material, Prophet Ibrahim was actually instructed to leave his wife, Hajar, and their baby, Ismail, in a completely desolate place. I mean, picture this. There were no trees for shade, absolutely no fruit to eat, no running water anywhere. They were left with nothing but a small skin of water, just a tiny bag to keep them going. Try to imagine feeling that level of vulnerability.
But before departing, Ibrahim made a plea. The narrative tells us his exact prayer is recorded in the Quran, specifically in Surah Ibrahim, Ayah 37. He prays, "Our Lord, I have settled some of my descendants in an uncultivated valley near your sacred house." This is so important because it establishes the foundation for everything that follows. It shows us that this incredibly difficult placement wasn't an accident, right? It was tied to a profound divine purpose, even if that purpose was completely hidden from the people living it in that moment. So the water in that little bag inevitably runs out, and baby Ismail starts to cry from intense thirst. Hajar, driven by pure motherly instinct, begins a desperate search for help. She climbs all the way up to the peak of a nearby mountain called Safa just to look out over the horizon. Seeing absolutely no one, she runs down and climbs a second mountain, Marwa. Still nothing. So she frantically runs back and forth between the two peaks, hoping against hope to spot a passing caravan or literally anyone who could help. Now, the crucial detail here is the number 7. The source makes a point to emphasize that Hajar made this grueling, panicked run between Safa and Marwa exactly 7 times. She didn't just give up after the first, second, or even 5th try.
And here is our very first powerful anchor to the modern day. That ancient, frantic search by a mother trying to save her baby, it's memorialized today through the ritual of Sa'i. When millions of pilgrims travel for Hajj or Umrah, they literally recreate Hajar's exact footsteps. They walk back and forth between the Safa and Marwa mountains, you guessed it, 7 times. It takes this historical moment of deep, deep distress and turns it into a living, physical act of devotion that millions practice today.
Chapter 2: The Miracle of Zamzam, the literal spring of hope that changed absolutely everything. So the narrative describes a miraculous resolution to Hajar's struggle. After finishing that 7th run to Mount Marwa, she hears a voice. She looks over toward her baby and she sees an angel. The source tells us this angel dug right into the dry earth next to baby Ismail until, boom, a spring of water comes gushing out. Suddenly, in a place with absolutely nothing, they have the single most vital resource for life. This incredible water source became known as the Well of Zamzam. Now, what's really fascinating here is the chain reaction this sets off. In the desert, water brings birds. Flocks of birds start circling this new spring. And, as the source points out, when travelers from far away saw those birds, they knew for a fact there had to be water down there. So, people started arriving, they started settling down, and just like that, a lifeless, barren valley was catalyzed into a vibrant, lively city. And, amazingly to this day, pilgrims drink from this exact same well and even pack bottles of Zamzam water to bring back home with them.
Chapter 3: The Ultimate Test. Let's see what happens when Ibrahim finally returns to his family. Years pass. Ibrahim returns to find that the barren land is now a bustling city, and his little infant son has grown into a young man. But the narrative introduces a supreme, unthinkable challenge. Ibrahim, a prophet whose dreams are understood to be divine truth, receives a dream with an unimaginably heavy command. He is instructed to sacrifice his beloved son, Ismail. It's a moment of just immense psychological and spiritual weight.
When Ibrahim shared this dream with his son, Ismail's response was profound. He actually says, "O Father, do as you commanded to do, and you shall find me among the patient ones." This brilliantly highlights the overarching theme of the whole narrative: ultimate submission and obedience to the divine will, no matter the personal cost. Both father and son completely agreed to carry out the command. Chapter 4: Stoning the Enemy. This is where physical action meets spiritual resolve.
As Ibrahim prepared to go through with the sacrifice, the narrative tells us that Shaitan, or Satan, intervened. He tried to discourage Ibrahim, whispering doubts to stop him from obeying the command. At this critical moment of internal conflict, the angel Gabriel appeared. Gabriel gave Ibrahim a very specific physical instruction to ward off this temptation. He was told to throw stones to drive the enemy away.
Let's break down the math on this for a second, because the numbers in the tradition are very specific. Shaitan didn't just try once. He kept coming back. First, Ibrahim threw 7 stones to drive him away. Then, Shaitan returned 2 more times, and Ibrahim threw 7 stones each of those times. So 7 stones times 3 encounters gives us exactly 21 stones thrown in total to finally banish the discouragement.
This historical rejection of doubt isn't just a story. It's directly practiced today in a ritual called Rami al-Jamarat. During Hajj, in the city of Mina, Muslims physically throw pebbles at 3 pillars. And as the source charmingly notes, families today will literally collect these little pebbles in Ziploc bags beforehand. By throwing them, they are actively remembering and participating in Ibrahim's staunch, absolute rejection of negative influences. So we've reached the absolute climax of this test. On one hand, you have the intended sacrifice, Ismail, but right as Ibrahim was about to follow through, the narrative states a miracle occurred. Opening their eyes, they saw that Allah had replaced Ismail with a sheep. They had passed the ultimate test of faith, and the son's life was miraculously spared. And that moment of divine intervention, that's the reason for one of the most widely celebrated holidays in the entire world. Every single year during the Islamic month of Dhul Hijjah, Muslims globally observe Eid al-Adha. Families will sacrifice an animal, like a goat, a cow, or a camel, but it's not merely a ritual. It serves as an active lesson in obedience, submission, and a direct memory of Prophet Ibrahim's incredible test and sacrifice.
Chapter 5: Building the Kaaba. Let's look at the final monument. Now that Ismail was a grown man, the father and son were given a new, totally monumental task. They were ordered to build the house of Allah, the Kaaba. The source describes this really beautiful father-son collaborative effort. Ismail would go out, gather, and carry these heavy stones from all around the area. And as the walls grew higher, he even brought a special stone for his father to stand on, just so they could keep building upward together. But they weren't just building with their hands, right? They were building with their hearts. The narrative highlights that throughout this grueling physical labor, they were continuously praying. Their specific prayer is recorded in Surah Baqarah. "Our Lord, accept this from us. Indeed, you are the all-hearing and the all-knowing." It really reinforces the deeply spiritual nature behind their physical work. Which brings us to our final modern anchor. That structure they built, the Kaaba, is the focal point of the massive ritual known as Tawaf. Millions of people travel to this exact spot to walk in anti-clockwise circles around the Kaaba. And hey, notice the pattern here? They do it exactly 7 times. The source beautifully points out that this specific anti-clockwise motion physically keeps your heart closest to the Kaaba as you circle it. Well, we've covered a truly incredible journey today. From a desperate mother in a barren valley to the ultimate test of a father and son, all the way to the construction of a sacred sanctuary. I want to leave you with this final thought. By retracing these ancient footsteps of struggle and sacrifice, literally running where Hajar ran, throwing stones where Ibrahim threw them, circling the very walls they built, how do modern rituals keep the past vividly alive today? History isn't just something we remember. It's breathed into life through these actions. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.